Apple's App Store is, of course, impossible to ignore. It's the preeminent mobile application marketplace, but with that comes a lot of headaches since its app approval process some see as inconsistent. What's the real story? We bring in two developers, Saverio Mondelli from Enormego and Greg Smith from Privus Mobile, to talk about it. Times are tough, so save time and money by skipping business trips and using GoToMeeting. Visit gotomeeting.com/techpodcast and get 30 days for free. Apple really invented the application marketplace as a concept with its App Store, from iTunes of course, and in the past couple years as people have gotten used to it, there's been some problems with applications being submitted and then rejected, and Apple's communication rather being a little bit lackluster. Now, Saverio, we've kind of seen this for a couple years. As a developer, what's sort of your take on submitting applications to the App Store?
We've been rejected for just about every reason, and it's really frustrating. But at the same time, Apple provided the App Store, which was like this great platform for developers, indie developers even, to really get an application on there, and they provided an audience for it. They gave you distribution, they gave you billing, so they gave you this really awesome platform, and it's incredibly flawed on the back end with the review process. But and we see a lot of developers complaining about how they should get rid of it. It should be completely open, and we don't agree. I think it's great the way it is. It just needs a little bit of tweaking to make it a little bit better than what it is.
Great.
Like you just said, it needs to be a little bit more communication.
Yeah. So, Greg, I mean, has your experience been pretty similar? I mean, have you seen a lot of rejection from the App Store? Have things gone pretty smoothly for you?
No, it's similar, and a big thing that was just said, which we agree with, is lack of communication and lack of information. So you get a rejection, and it's not totally clear why. And then finally we had resubmitted, and we sat in limbo for literally months. And any communications that we got back were, sorry, your application's under review. And we couldn't understand why it would take, months and months, literally months and months. And then all of a sudden, with no notice, we were approved and up. And our application, which is caller ID for mobile devices, requires back-end support from our end once it starts working. And so all of a sudden, bam, one day it was up and it started selling, which was great, and we're happy to have it up. But a little notice would have been wonderful.
It's really kind of a lack of communication. Now, Saverio, have you started developing for any other mobile application platforms? And how do you kind of contrast that with Apple's? I mean, when you even look at the other application marketplaces, regardless of whether you've actually developed for them.
We're all capable here developing for the Android, and we've looked at the WebOS too, and those are really the only two that we've seen that kind of have any future whatsoever. They're great platforms. They look good. I mean, Android really has a lot of power there, but I mean, the core of why the App Store is great isn't because of the anything that any other platforms can reproduce. It's the development kit that Apple gives you, and it's just a ridiculous audience that you have access to millions of users that you would never have. You don't have that on Android. You don't have that on WebOS. So like the two things that these platforms need to get straight is that they need to have an incredible SDK like what Apple has. You have the Xcode and you have the tools to debug, and they need to provide you with an audience that makes me want to develop for it, and we definitely would.
Well, Greg, your application, the caller ID, we talked about in an email, is cross-platform, right? You're running on multiple operating systems, and some work better than others. Some you can have an application running in the background, for instance, which can actually grab the caller ID and take information from. I'm not completely clear on where it comes from, but essentially it displays caller ID based on someone's mobile number.
Yes.
Now you're using the iPhone, and you're not able to run background processes, and there's some other limitations like that. When you contrast, sort of around the mobile marketplace, do you still think that the iPhone is the most important platform to be on, just because of its sheer volume?
Well, yes. I mean, as we just said, it's because they have such a huge reach, and there's so many users, and there's so many people looking at it. I mean, I think that everybody would probably agree that the iTunes App Store really is what created the app marketplace. But as you mentioned, we're developed on Android and Windows Mobile and RIM and Symbian, and so we're out in the market through most of the app stores.
Yeah.
We're on Android, we're on BlackBerry App World,
And
on Handmark.
And since you're in other places, I mean, is there anything that you can see that these other application providers do that Apple could really learn from? I mean, you don't really have to ask for permission for, you know, most of these places. I mean, realistically, what's sort of the lessons that Apple should learn from these other marketplaces and vice versa?
Well, I think a couple of things. One is we found in working with the other app stores that they were much more communicative. So we would know where we stood, and they were much faster. So most of the time when we put a product on up on those stores, they would review it quickly, and we would be up and running rather quickly. Or if there was a question or it was declined, we'd know quickly and we'd make the tweak and put it back up. So functionally wise, our application on Apple is a little behind the others because of the restrictions that Apple has on the iPhone, where the rest of them deliver caller ID real time. But the App Store experience with the other ones, though not as big, they don't get to as large a market. Much more pleasant experience getting lights.
It kind of sounds to me like this is you guys kind of have the same underlying problem. It really comes down to communication. You know, Saverio, in a perfect world, obviously Apple has the most applications in its application store, has the most developers vying for attention. So realistically, they have kind of a problem of so many applications, not enough reviewers, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, is there anything Apple, in your opinion, could do that would be really simple to sort of fix the problem? I mean, there's got to be something.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, and I think a part of it is that, I mean, ignoring the whole thing about like, oh, they should run background processes and all that, and just look at the review process in itself. You know, you think like the solution should just be to hire more people or to just, you know, be able to get a better system in there. I'd like to see a kind of a trust system put in place where maybe Apple kind of assigns a certain level of karma to each developer, and you know, so maybe that first review does take a little bit of time to get approved, but after that goes up, maybe an update only takes, you know, a couple hours to get approved because you have a level of karma and they can trust you based on, you know, okay, you've had X amount of applications put up there, so you're a trustworthy developer. So I mean, something like that would definitely reduce their load, and I think it could be really great to the review process. But you know, it's tough to kind of, you know, you don't know the inside of it, so it's kind of hard to speculate what they could be doing when you don't know what they're doing wrong. It's
guessing in a black box since they are so secretive about how the process works. I don't know, Greg. Any final thoughts on the entire process?
Oh, absolutely. And I think they may have done some things lately, and I haven't personally just checked. But you know, this is almost 2010. You know, web access. All you have to do is input your ID, your Apple ID, and you can have a graph bar that says where you are in the process. It can automatically just scroll through as it moves through the process, and so you know when you get close to an approval or rejection, and when you're going to be live on the store, and you don't need to have any human interface. You just give us access to
some sort of ticketing or some method of understanding.
A bar, cut down immensely on the number of people they need to have to developer.
It's interesting stuff, guys. We're going to leave it there. Again, Saverio Mondelli, rather, from Enormego. Thanks for coming on the program. Also, Greg Smith from Privus Mobile. Thanks for coming on the show as well. I'm Randall Bennett, and don't forget, you can catch us on iTunes. We're on YouTube, and special thanks to our sponsors who've been hooking us up. Petco is one of them. You can get some money off by going to petco.com/techbee. See you later.
Promo code AFTVSAVE and get 15% off any order over $75 at ccs.com.